right, everyone, I think we can go ahead and get started. It's good to see so many faces here. Good evening. Welcome to the 2013 Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education Candidates Forum, sponsored by the SPF PTA Council. My name is Marcy Bowman. I have the honor and good fortune of being the current president of the PTA Council and will be serving as moderator for this evening's forum. Thank you all for being here, and to those of you watching remotely as well. In particular, we would like to thank the 7 individuals running for the 3 open seats on our Board of Education. It is gratifying to know that there are people so committed to the children of our district that they are willing to take on this tremendous responsibility. We commend you all. Let's first meet our candidates, and then we will briefly explain the format for the evening's discussion before we get into opening remarks. We'll be moving across the panel from left to right. Evan Murray is seeking one of the seats from Scotch Plains. David Gorbanoff is an incumbent from Scotch Plains. Robert Stovall is seeking one of the one seat from Fanwood. Charlotte Shermer from Scotch Plains. Nancy Norris Bauer is an incumbent from Scotch Plains, and Amy Winkler is an incumbent from Fanwood. And John Scanland, seeking to fill one of the 2 Scotch Plains seats, was not able to join us this evening. He did, however, send an opening statement, and we will get to that shortly. This is not a true debate with rounds of rebuttal and so on. Rather, it is a kinder, gentler format and is designed to allow voters to get to know each of you so they can make a more informed decision when they enter the voting booth on November 5th. In order to make sure each candidate has ample and equal time to share their views, we will be timing your answers, and we thank Ellen Geisel from our PTA Council for being here to handle that task. The candidates drew chips in advance to determine their placement around the table this evening, which in turn determines the order of opening comments. And again, we'll be going left to right across the panel. You will each have 2.5 minutes for your opening remarks. And let's begin with Evan Murray, seeking to represent Scotch Plains. Mr. Murray?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Evan Murray. I am a lifelong resident of Union County, a son and the husband of a dedicated public school teacher, so I definitely have, the best interest and know what public education has to offer. I'm a graduate of Westchester University of Pennsylvania. I'm currently employed by Prudential Investment Management as a vice president within their fixed income operations organization. I'm committed to the children and the community, as evidenced by my volunteer within youth baseball, basketball, soccer, as well as coach and executive board member for Clark Pop Warner football for nearly 2 decades. I was also appointed to serve as a representative for the township and on the Union County Development Committee, as well as the Environmental Commission. And I do hope that I'll be given the opportunity to serve the Scotch Plains School Board in the capacity of board member. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Murray. Now we move on to David Gorbanoff.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dave Gorbanoff. I'm seeking to remain on the board representing Scotch Plains. A bit of background, my wife and I have been living in town for 21 years. Our 3 children are all products of the Scotch Plains Fanwood school system. My wife is also a teacher, and as of this September, my oldest son is also a school teacher. So I look forward to continuing the good work that we do on the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Now Mr. Stovall from Fanwood.
Thank you, Marcy. Good evening. My name is Robert Stovall. My wife Kathleen and I moved here to Fanwood in 1998. We've really enjoyed every year. We love this town. We have 2 daughters, Mary Catherine, who's 15, sophomore in the high school, Jacqueline, who's 13 in the Park Middle School. And I'm a lifelong resident of New Jersey, born in Mountain Lakes and went to Mountain Lakes High School. And I love New Jersey, and I convinced my wife not to move to New York after we got married, but rather to move to New Jersey and live in this town. And I'm very involved with the school system, very involved with all of the activities. I'm also very involved in the community. I'm on the Board of Health, the Public Relations Manager for the Board of Health. I'm on the Fanwood Rescue Squad. I'm a chaperone with the marching band, and I'm a very big believer that unless you get involved in your community, you don't have the right to complain about anything that you don't agree with. So I'm a very big believer in that, and I love this town, I love the people in this town, and I really want to make a difference and at least try to give whatever I can. My 25 years in public relations and marketing, I think I can really add a lot to this seat, and I am grateful to the opportunity to run for this position. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we move to Charlotte Shermer from Scotch Plains.
Hi everyone, my name is Charlotte Shermer. I've lived in Scotch Plains for 18 years. I'd just like to say thank you to the PTA Council, to Superintendent Dr. Hayes and Trip Whitehouse, the Board of Ed President, and all the school board members for giving me time to present my ideas. This is my first time running for any position, and I am somewhat nervous, but I am very excited also. I welcome the opportunity to be a volunteer on the school board of Ed for Scotch Plains Fanwood. I have been a volunteer all my life also, which I find very commendable. I feel like I should give back also. The community gives to us, and we should also give back. I was a mentor to troubled youth in the Union County Probation Department with very young people that didn't know which way to go in life. You do your best to show them different things that they don't get at home. I also have done volunteer work for the Catholic Charities with aid victims. I've done that for several years. I make sandwiches for the church that I belong to, St. Agnes, where I've been a parishioner for 27 years. And so sandwiches for the homeless. And right now I'm doing volunteer work for animals, which I clean out cages every Saturday and feed them and, all that stuff and try to get them homes. I've also have animals in my house too that I have gotten back to health and had them adopted. So it's a great feel. I get a lot of pleasure out of volunteering. People ask me, why do I do it? You don't get paid for it. I do it because my heart tells me to. And I love children. I've only had one child, unfortunately. And I'd like to have a lot, so maybe I can have all the kids in the school system be my kids because I do have an affinity for them. And I'd just like to say thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. And now we move to Nancy Norris Bauer of Scotch Plains.
Hi, I am Nancy Norris Bauer, and that's the name that I use in my professional life, and it's the name that'll be on the ballot, and I say that because in this community, my Girl Scouts and my children's friends all call me Mrs. Bauer, so people don't always know my real official legal name. As a parent, I attended a lot of Board of Ed meetings over the years and asked the typical questions about class size and issues that I was concerned about. And I know how important it is for people in the community to have people on the Board of Ed that they feel that they can trust, that these people will weigh decisions carefully and listen to the input from the community. And I remember specifically my son and his friends attended a lot of Board of Education meetings because they were advocating for a high school ice hockey team. And they learned invaluable lessons about civic engagement, attending all those meetings and advocating for something that they believed in. Both of my children have graduated in recent years, and I think that gives me the long view of education in Scotch Plains because I've seen it from kindergarten all the way through high school now. And I'm one of the few educators on the Board of Education. I started out as a classroom teacher, but now I'm an administrator at William Patterson University in the College of Education. So I work to prepare teachers, and specifically I'm the director of a network of, a large network of professional development schools across many, many districts. So I think that gives me the opportunity to bring back a lot of ideas about how other districts are handling issues, whether it's finance, curriculum, the new teacher evaluations, and so forth. And as to why I'm running for re-election, I think back to those bumper stickers that we used to have. Maybe you saw them years ago, and it would say, you couldn't be a doctor without a teacher, and you couldn't be a lawyer without a teacher, and it's all kind of cliche, but I really do believe that. I think for our democracy to continue and be successful, it's about preparing the next generation of leaders for our community and our nation. Nationally, of course, they're going to decide whether things like Social Security continue or whether we go to war, and locally, they're going to be our leaders as well. And they'll be making decisions that affect the reputation of our community, the values of our home, of our homes. And so if reelected, I would try to continue to make, I think, careful decisions and take in multiple perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we move to Amy Winkler of Fanwood.
Hi, I'm Amy Winkler. My husband and I have been living in Fanwood for just about 15 years now. Both my parents were public school teachers. My father taught in New York City in the high school. My mother taught in elementary school in Monmouth County. I'm a stay-at-home mom these days. In my previous life, I worked as a hydrogeologist, doing environmental cleanup, managing sites for the military, oil companies, manufacturing companies. I have 2 children in the school district. I have one in elementary school and one in middle school right now. I have been on the board now for 4 years. I was appointed to serve to fill an empty seat, and then 6 months later I ran to hold on to that seat, and now it's 4 years later, and I've learned so much in between. My initial interest in being on the board was simply a way to take my volunteering in the community to the next level. I was very involved in the PTA. I was very involved at our temple and in other aspects of volunteering. And why do I want to continue? I guess I actually enjoy it. It's not always easy and it's not always fun, but it is gratifying and it's important, and I do enjoy it.
Well, thank you all very much for those thoughtful remarks. As I mentioned earlier, candidate John Scanland, seeking one of the seats from Scotch Plains, did send an introductory letter, and I will read that at this time. My name is John T. Scanland. I live at 30 Tisbury Court in Southwick, here in Scotch Plains with my wife, Dorothy. I have 4 daughters who are happily married. 2 live in Staten Island, 1 in Cranford, and 1 in Scotch Plains. I have 11 grandchildren ranging in ages from 6 years old to 25 years old. 2 have gone through the Scotch Plains school system, and 1 is still attending school in Scotch Plains. I graduated from Manhattan College with a BBA. I earned an MBA in taxes from Pace University. I am also a New York State CPA. My work experience includes the following. Number 1, I worked for several public accounting firms as an accountant and auditor with clients in the garment industry, insurance industry, transportation, electric, oil and gas industries, and the stock brokerage industry. 2, I have also devoted time to various nonprofit organizations such as credit unions, condominiums, healthcare, and senior organizations such as Meridians here in Scotch Plains. Number 3, I also have experience in working on budgets and negotiations with various government agencies, including the Internal Revenue Service. The reasons I decided to enter my name in the election for the school board are my concerns with the constant increase in the school budget and the increase of $3,000 over the past 10 years in my real estate taxes. I don't believe the present school board is doing a poor job in providing the materials and environment in educating the students. On the contrary, I believe the students are obtaining a very good education. However, I believe that a prudent examination of the overall finances of the system is the answer. I therefore would like to concentrate my efforts using my financial skills in reducing waste, limiting unnecessary spending, preparing a reasonable budget, and negotiating various contracts entered into by the school board, thereby reducing costs in the school budget. This will also enable us to reduce real estate taxes that will allow seniors on fixed incomes to stay in their homes. It should also promote and allow more young parents with children to move into our neighborhoods. In conclusion, I would like to thank everyone for allowing me to present myself at this time. Again, those remarks were sent in by John Scanland, running for one of the 2 Board of Education seats open to Scotch Plains residents. We now proceed to the question and answer portion, and these will be answered in random order. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to answer. At the end of each round, we will allow a few moments for follow-up. PTA Council has vetted and researched these questions. We received input from representatives at each of our 8 schools and from the committee chairs who make up our council. The candidates did have the opportunity to review these topics in advance. Also, at 2 points during the evening, we will open the floor to questions from the audience. So get set, everyone. Our first candidate to field the question is Robert Stovall from Fanwood. And the question is, last year, the state legislature unanimously passed the Teach NJ Act. This mandated implementation of a new teacher evaluation system beginning with this school year, which links tenure decisions to evaluation ratings. While there are multiple measures of a teacher's performance, scores on standardized tests represent a significant component. This leads to concerns, among other things, of the age-old teaching to the test. Please share your thoughts.
My thoughts are, I definitely agree with the return on investment or the return on education to measure the success of a teacher linked to the test that a student takes. But I've taken standardized tests and I understand the issues around them. There are so many problems with answering them properly, fairly, accurately. I believe that in addition to standardized tests, a very effective way to measure the success of a teacher and a student is to have a student write an essay expressing in their words how that individual teacher has helped that student learn, succeed, achieve, and accomplish the mutual goal that both the student and the teacher had set forth. That way you have a very simple, very effective, bulletproof way for both the student and the teacher to understand the success. And the standardized test can be a component of it, but I really believe that you also need that opportunity from the student and the teacher. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and now we go to Charlotte Shermer.
Oh, for the same question?
Yes, same question.
Okay. I have to read from my notes. Sorry, guys. I think it's important and necessary for teachers to be evaluated throughout their careers. Although it is crucial that our children's best interests are not compromised. This act has been passed, so we must now ensure that we have caring, effective teachers in our district. Caring, effective teachers will ensure that not only our children are prepared for these tests, but also that they are learning other pertinent information that is not covered on the test, but crucial for their education.
Thank you very much, and now we move to Amy Winkler.
This is a complicated question, really. I think that on the one hand, everyone wants to know that their children are being exposed to and able to master certain concepts by the time that they graduate from the high school, regardless of what their family income is or what town they live in or which schools they attend. And so it is important to have some way of judging whether different schools, different teachers are getting these points across to the students. On the other hand, standardized tests can be really crazy and really difficult. If a kid has a bad day or if they skip a question and then answer all the others, even if they're correct, if they're one off, the whole rest of that test is done. There are so many reasons why standardized test is not always the best measure of how much a student knows. So it can be very difficult. And judging the teachers based on these tests may have the same sort of difficulties. We also want to make sure that our students learn things thinking outside of the box, creativity, just basic good character or showing initiative, things that we'll never be able to measure on a test. And so I have very mixed feelings about this.
Thank you very much. And we move next door to you to Nancy Bauer.
I would follow up on some of the things that Amy was saying. Certainly teachers need to be evaluated, and the attraction of test scores is that it's a number, so it's easy to look at. That's also the concerning piece to me, because not because you can manipulate numbers specifically, but they're using a growth model here in New Jersey, which is good. We all want our children, our students to grow and show growth. But it presents challenges as well, because if students are already doing great and they're at the top of the growth model, how is the teacher supposed to show that she can improve and that she's making the students grow? Maybe the student got 99% and, oh my God, fell down to 98. And so the teacher doesn't look as good. There are many issues with how this model is actually developed, and so those are some of the concerns I have about it. And I think we'll see how it ends up. But I think we are fortunate, back to the teaching of the test piece, that in this district, while I think we have a laser focus on having students have good test scores and perform well on the test, I think that the philosophy in this district has been that the best way to do that is through good teaching and not teaching to the test.
Thank you. And now we'll move all the way down here to this end to Evan Murray.
Thank you. So from my perspective, you know, if the curriculum within the district is aligned with the the Common Core state standards that recently replaced the core curriculum content standards, so teachers shouldn't really feel that they need to teach to the test necessarily, because the targeted skills will be already aligned within the district's curriculum. So unfortunately, the curriculum isn't a one-size-fits-all type of curriculum, right? So in that case, teachers should be encouraged to supplement some of that teaching at their discretion. I'm not in any means saying change the curriculum, but they should be given some leeway to be able to replace or change, not replace, but change or enhance some of the things that are already offered, so that each student has the best chance of success. So just as there's multiple measures of a teacher's performance, there's also holds true for the students as well. So we mustn't forget that standardized tests, teacher-parent interviews and input, report card grades, student portfolios, so their work samples, those together all capture the entire student. So I think it's important that we're looking at the whole picture, not just specifically teaching to the test, because I think the district curriculum supports the need that it wouldn't need to have to be done if the curriculum is definitely drafted properly.
Thank you. And we'll finish up this round with David Gorbanoff.
The concept of teaching to the test kind of gives the impression that we have teachers that are only concerned about the number on the test. That's really not the case. That's not the case in this district. That's not the case of anyone I know who's a teacher or who knows a teacher. What the teachers here try to do is they try to teach the skills that are necessary for students to do well on those tests. I know that was the case with two of my kids. They were not good test takers. They just weren't. Were they taught to the test? No, but they were taught the skills needed to study and prepare for the test, so that when that test came, it wasn't a shocking moment for them. So that's really where I think the teaching staff focuses, and that's where our district has always focused. So I'm really not concerned that in our district we're going to be teaching to the test, because I truly don't believe that happens.
Thank you very much. Do we have any follow-up or any clarifications that any of you would like to make about your own remarks or any of your fellow candidates? Good? Great. Thank you. We'll move on to have one more question here, and then we'll come out to the audience. To most effectively manage the workload, the SPF Board of Education members are assigned to a range of committees, such as curriculum, finance, community relations, and so on. Do you have a particular interest in any of the existing committee areas? And further, both committee and board work is collaborative. What past experiences do you have that would guide you through such a process? And we begin with Nancy Bauer with this question.
My interest when I came on the board and where I've had my focus over the last 6 years has been in curriculum and in finance. In addition, I also have been serving as the Board of Ed representative to the Garden State Coalition of Schools, which is a statewide group of schools that shares data and tries to influence policy with the state so that we can have legislation that's not going to negatively impact our district. And I also have been serving on the negotiations team with the SPFBOE the last 6 years. I brought to this, in my previous life, one of the positions I held was to be the director of a museum, and in that position, I was the one who was facilitating the board and all the committees and helping them come to consensus. In my current work, I coordinate a number of statewide advisory groups, including the New Jersey National History Day program, working with historic sites and all kinds of groups around the state and multiple other advisory boards. So I think we're fortunate on our board to do a good job of listening, I think, to the community, but also to each other. And I think the community is to be commended for having respectful discussions and conversations. We're fortunate in that regard.
Excellent, thank you. And now we move over here to Evan Murray.
Thank you. Well, I'm not going to sit and say that I know all of the committees that are, supported within the board, but the first few that come to mind would be finance, facilities, and athletics. My goal is to really just be involved. So, where there's a need, I'm always willing to step up and support. Some of my past experiences, so, and some of them have left lifelong lessons in my head. So, president of my fraternity was one of them. I know it's, sounds like the Animal House thing, but it's totally a lot different than that. I definitely learned a lot of my leadership skills and capabilities, time management, all of those things through being on the board of that fraternity and dealing with the national offices. I was vice president treasurer of an honor fraternity, Order of Omega, which I'm sure a few people are familiar with. I was on the University Judicial Board, Clark Pop Warner Executive Board. I'm on the advisory board for a leadership development program within fixed income operations for my current job at Prudential. And I also sit on the leadership team of our operations organization, where we make decisions on how to support our multi-billion-dollar organization that's a global organization. So I feel that I've had to collaborate in a number of different ways. For any of you who've sat and been an assistant coach for a 5-year-old's soccer team, you know that collaboration is key here to try to get them to focus on the task at hand, as opposed to throwing grass on each other and so on. So I think that in itself has prepared me for a lot. But thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to ping all the way back to the other side of the table with Amy Winkler.
All right. I'm currently serving on the curriculum committee for the board, as well as community relations committee and personnel committee. I'm also liaison to the Union County School Boards Association, and I'm on the shared services committee between Fanwood and Scotch Plains and the Board of Ed. I just lost my train of thought completely with notes in front of me and everything. That's terrible.
Collaboration.
Yes, collaboration. My previous experiences, obviously the last 4 years I've been serving, but also committee work that I've done through the PTAs in the schools where my children are attending, and managing projects in my previous job, and coordinating things within the temple that I belong to in the community now. I don't know, I guess that's kind of good sampling.
Thank you. And just to keep the audience apace with what we're talking about committee work on the board and collaboration. And we move back over here to David Gorbanoff.
Currently, pardon me, I chair the policy committee for the board. I serve on facilities and personnel. And in terms of negotiations, because I'm married to a teacher, I am barred from negotiating with the SPFEA, but I do sit on the team that negotiates with the Teamsters, which are our custodial and groundskeeping staff. In terms of those committees and the collaboration, we've really gotten into a pretty good place with the committees in that the administration comes to the committee structure with issues, with specifics, and we kind of vet those in the committees first and see if the administration feels they're on the right track by kind of bouncing it off of us, using us as sounding boards. And then the discussions then that go to the full board are, if you've attended our meetings, they're not really very contentious because we've had discussions in the committee structure on a lot of these issues. The way we get assigned to committees, generally at the beginning of the term, the president and vice president of the board basically poll the board members and ask what they would like to do, where they see their interest being. As Nancy said, her interest is curriculum. She's an educator. My interest, I'm not an educator. I was a contractor for 13 years, so the facilities committee is kind of a natural. Personnel committee, in my profession, I manage an organization of about 280 people. What we do is we are back office and we provide fund administration, if you will, for grant programs at the federal and state level. So we work a lot with policies and procedures from HUD, from the FCC, from the state of New Jersey, the Economic Development Authority. So that got me on the policy committee. So we all kind of take our backgrounds and bring it to the board, starting in those committee levels where we can work in areas that interest us, and then all the committee members come together as the full board.
Thank you, and then we move over to Robert Stovall.
Thank you. My interest in being involved in the committees with the Board of Education would be based upon my 25 years of experience in communications and public relations and community relations. I've spent 25 years in medical marketing, medical advertising, medical public relations, and really found a passion and an interest in that, working very closely with target audiences and expressing the value that the product you have to that target audience. Currently, my other volunteer initiatives, I'm with the Board of Health, the Public Relations Publicity Manager. That's also healthcare related, also with the Rescue Squad. It's really helped me to learn to think on my feet, to think quickly, to take a leadership role, and to just dive in. The reason why I would very much want to be part of the community relations is I feel like I have a skill and a passion for those areas, but I would also like to have an involvement in other areas of education that I found were very, very valuable to me and very valuable to my children. Foreign languages and music, I think, are very important areas of growth, so I don't know if there's any committees around those, but I just realized that community relations could encompass all of that. But again, it's my purpose is to serve and to provide my experience and expertise. I'm not an educator, I've never been a teacher, but I certainly do have the passion and the desire to contribute to the community that I love so much.
Thank you, and now we move over to wrap this up with Charlotte Shermer.
Thank you. One of the things that I've been looking at is I think that I would like to volunteer or be on the board with the curriculum. I've looked at a recent report recently, and the Guardian ranking in the U.S. educational system is that we're number 14. There are 13 countries ahead of our education in the world. South Korea ranks number 1, Canada's number 3. I don't know how this happened, but one time we were number 1 in education, and I'd like to focus more on that. The school is doing a great job. I've sat here at many meetings, and I have nothing but praise for what I see, and everybody is certainly focused in the right direction. But I want to be number 1. I'd like our school to be the top of the notch. I want people to move into this community because of our school system, because of the reading, writing, and arithmetic. And I'd like to get more involved also with the publication of the perspective, and maybe let people in the community know more about what our children are doing, what bright stars that they are, and be proud of the community. And I think that'll welcome in new people into our community with the schools. I know that the last meeting that I was at here, the grammar school children were doing a garden. And I read a lot about Monsanto, and it's a #1 chemical company here, and they want to be globally the #1 chemical company. And what they're doing right now is hoarding seeds, and they're poisoning our soil, and we don't have the seeds that we used to have, and food doesn't taste the way it used to do. And so when I saw these children doing this garden, I got so excited to think that the school was teaching them about this, but I'd like to see it brought into the higher end of school, into the high school. Because I was telling my my new lady friends here, that, when you go to a store now and you buy an apple, or you buy a tomato, it doesn't taste the same as one that you grow at home, and it's because of all the chemicals and things. And I think that the older students should get to know about that too. And another lesson that it will teach too is that sometimes the ugly tomato, and I know this may sound corny, tastes so much better than the pretty tomato. And I know how kids are, when they're in high school, they become vain and think about looks, and maybe this will show them something else also. So that's my deal.
Well, thank you all very much. Now we'd like to open the floor to the audience. If anyone has questions, they can come up to the podium. Go right ahead. You're welcome to ask it to a specific candidate. If you address it to them all, I will go ahead and sort of select them in random order to answer.
Sure. Yeah, I think this probably goes for existing board members. So I'm a Brunner parent. Got another Brunner parent here. So I wanted to get your view on why the drop-off situation for Brunner is very different than the drop-off situation for the other elementary schools. And from your experience, what can we do about that? Because it's very inconvenient as opposed to some of the other schools. And wanted to see, I know there were some things done in the past, but wanted to understand, like, from the Board of Ed's viewpoint, what can we do? What are our constraints, et cetera?
Do any of our incumbents want to jump in on that?
Well, maybe I'll just start off by saying that as board members, we want to follow up on community concerns, but we don't control the nitty-gritty. So a board is really responsible for the policy, and of course hiring personnel, legal issues. And so, but as far as Brunner is concerned, I know, work closely with the police department in terms of crossing and trying to make some adjustments to improve the situation there. I think if there's still concerns, then that should be brought to the superintendent, the specific concerns you have, because it wouldn't come straight to us. It would be, if it involved policy, then the policy committee would look at it. If it involved facilities in terms of parking and parking spaces, then the facilities committee would be looking at it. Finance, if it was a solution that cost money, so it would come to us in those kinds of ways. And if people are speaking up at the board meetings, which people often come with concerns, then certainly we would be asking questions and following up with the superintendent, finding out what the recommendations the administration has to make and the possible solutions. I don't know if that helps, but.
I would say, I was also going to say the same type of thing. It's really about a dialogue. I mean, there have been changes over the since I've been on the board. We've several times dealt with that issue. There are traffic issues, there are parking issues, there are safety issues. But as Nancy said, the way to get it, if there are still changes that you're looking for, you need to bring those to the administration, and then they would come to us.
That's good to know. I can follow up with the superintendent. My understanding is that the principal is aware, Mr. Bortnick is aware, and there's an acknowledgement that it is a less than ideal situation. But this is the first public forum, so thank you for holding it. But
Sure.
I just figured I'd come and get your views to see, where I need to go to address this, in particular.
And you can send letters to the board. There's a tab on the website.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the audience at this time? Because you'll have another chance. Come right up. And again, is this for specific members or for the whole panel? Okay.
It's Craig Allen with Scotch Plains, and this will be for the non-incumbents. My question is kind of a two-part question. How many times have you been to board meetings prior to this, prior to running? So they used to call them board watchers. You used to come to either the board meeting or maybe the agenda meeting. How many times have you come? And what do you think one or two of the most important responsibilities that you'll have as board members will be?
Why don't we start with Charlotte Shermer first, and then we'll go back in this direction.
One of the most important role that I would be playing?
One or two of the most important responsibilities that you think you would have as a board member, and how many times have you been to board meetings prior to this?
I just started when I got on the ballot coming to the board meetings. I don't have a child in the school system. When I had decided to run, I came to 3 or 4 of them, and I sat here. And not many of the chairs have been taken by parents, I'm sad to say. And that's one thing that I'd like to see more parents here. You know, they say behind every man is a good woman, but behind every student is parents. And we need parents here in order to see what's going on and to give us feedback as what they see to be things that they're concerned, so that we can rectify them. Hopefully together we can work all those things out to make the school better. I'd like to see, like I said, when I read this article about, you know, what's going on in other countries and how they're beating us, I mean, I want to do better here. I want our kids to do better. Their future is at value, and they're going to hold our future, because by the time we're older, they'll be making decisions for us. And I'd like to see the best technology that we could have. And I think economics also, because without economics, they're not going to understand money and how to spend the money fiscally. And I'd like them to learn more about things like that. Let's see what else. I don't know, that's about it for now.
And now let's move over to Robert Stovall.
Thank
for the
you.
Same question.
I started coming to board meetings when my oldest daughter started high school. That was last year. I've been to about 4 board meetings, and I've really enjoyed the experience. I remember one board meeting was especially moving for me because I could relate to it. Students who had the privilege of studying in Barcelona, and they had the exchange students coming here as well. I studied at the University of Madrid for 2 summers. It was by far the most extraordinary experience of my life from an education standpoint, and I would strongly encourage that for every parent, to encourage their child to do that. So that was really impactful for me and really was an inspiration. So I think going to the board meetings really gives you a sense for what's going on in the community, and that's what got me committed to say I want to be on a board, because I want to be part of this committee and I want to see the school system improve. Since we moved to Fanwood in 1998, the rankings has improved, and I'm really happy to see that. But I want Fanwood to be on par with Millburn and Westfield as far as the school districts, to be the top school system in Union County and possibly even the state, and rank as highly as Fanwood is among the top 3 places to live in New Jersey, according to a recent New Jersey magazine ranking. I want to see Fanwood as being top tier, and I want to be part of that, whether it's helping to develop policy or to provide input on ideas and recommendations. I would really like to be part of that process to help make the school board more successful or more innovative, and to help our children to learn at a better rate and to really become more valuable contributors to the society that they will inherit in the years to come.
Thank you, and we'll finish up with that with Mr. Murray.
So, contrary to the other members up here, I have been probably in the township the least amount of time. So I'm only been with and moved into Scotch Plains 3 years ago. But I'm trying to hit the ground running. I'm really trying to get involved. I've been to board members in Clark, where I grew up and lived for the majority of my life. I've only been to, I believe it's been 1 board bed meeting here. However, I really have a strong passion for being involved. And I think the 2 things that I would comment on, one would be fiscal responsibility, because I think it's important in any business that you have fiscal responsibility. And the second would be kind of definitely what's in the best interest of the students. So not looking at the students as just being a number, but actually as a real person, and having their interests in mind when decisions are being made, and what are those impacts on those decisions. Because at the end of the day, there's always going to be impacts to somebody, but where is it that you're going to really have the greatest impact on the masses? And I think that, you know, the students at the end of the day come first, because that's why we're all here.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from the audience? Mr. Lewis? And again, is this for everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
Michael Lewis, 41 Beach Avenue in Fanwood. At the risk of making a sweeping generalization, when you run for the board, generally in the back of your mind, you'd like to change something somewhere. To the incumbents, when you came on board, what did you want to change? Did you succeed? To the challengers, what would you like to change, and how would you go about doing it?
And let's start with David Gorbanoff, who is an incumbent.
When I first came to the board, I believe I spoke about increasing technology to the school district. I said that coming from a position, one of the programs that I'm responsible for is the E-rate program that provides internet access to schools and libraries across the country. So I wanted to see that our school district was availing itself of all the possible tools that were out there. I think since that time, our school district has done that. There's been a tremendous change and increase in technology and how it's being used in our classrooms and by our students. So that's really what I was looking to accomplish. I still think there's more in that area, but I think we have made tremendous progress there.
And let's move then to Amy Winkler from Fanwood. She is also an incumbent.
Hi. When I chose to, I want to say run for the board, but I guess really I was applying to fill an empty seat. I did not have any specific issue in mind. I really didn't. The seat had been vacated by a board member whose work responsibilities had increased, and word came through the PTA that there was an empty seat on the board, and several people had looked at me and said, "Oh, you should do that." And I said, "No, I'm not crazy. I'm not doing that." But after a while, I thought about it, and I thought, someone has to do that, and I'm capable of that, and I'm volunteering my time here. I could volunteer my time there, and maybe make a difference or help or something. But I really had no agenda when I applied for the seat.
Let's finish up with the incumbents on this topic and go to Nancy Norris Bauer.
So when I first came on the board, I mentioned I had been here advocating for and supporting actually these young men and trying to get an ice hockey team. So one of my interests was to see where all the money was. Unfortunately, all we did after I came on the board was cut positions. I think, I don't remember how many positions we had to cut, honestly. So it was not, I didn't find any money. But there were other things that I was interested in. I was very interested in the global issues kind of things and foreign languages, and we have made great strides in our strategic plan. We have added Mandarin here, although my beloved German has fallen along the way. But those are the kinds of decisions that you make for the interest of the district and not your own personal interests. So I've been very pleased about the global issues and the strides we've made in that area in foreign languages as one example.
Good. Thank you. Now let's move to the challengers, starting with Charlotte Shermer.
Okay, one of the things that I think is very important for children, it's hard to be a child. It really is. They have a lot of things thrown upon them, and life is so different than when we were children. Life was a lot easier. And from grammar school to high school, there's just a lot of peer pressure. There's bullying going on in schools. You have to be in a clique. And those are things that I think that have to be addressed more too. Their time management has to be addressed. They're in school all day. They have to have time for sports. They have to have time to eat. They have to have time to get to class. Then after school they have homework. It's nice if a kid can be a kid once in a while, and just forget about some of the, I have this horrific test tomorrow, and am I going to pass it? And be nervous like I am today, and worrying about taking the test, because I kind of feel like I'm taking a test right now. And I think that, I hope people, the teachers, when they look at these children, know what other teachers are giving in homework, that they're not overburdened with homework, that they put some pressure on them, but not to the degree where they're biting their nails, don't want to go to school, hate to go to school. We have to make it enjoyable for the kids. We have to make it interesting for the kids. And that's how they're going to learn. The more interesting we make it, the easier it is for them to learn. I think that they have a lot of after-school activities too, and they really don't have that much time to do much else. And I'd like to see the kids become more like kids, and the older kids, I'd like to see them grow and mature, and basically learn how to communicate with their teachers. When there are problems, be able to have somebody to go to that they can talk to and get things off their chest so it doesn't build up in them. I worry about the kids today. I worry about everything that's thrown on their plate. And if I can help them in any way, I'd like to be somebody that, could do that for them.
Thank you. Now let's move to Robert Stovall.
Thank you. I don't have a particular agenda item. I just want to give back to my community. I want to do everything I can to make sure that the education that my children are being given is the best it can be. And the best way that I can think of doing that is for me to personally dive in and be part of the board. So therefore, I don't have one particular agenda item, but I would like to understand more what issues are being discussed. I'd love to be able to contribute bright ideas that would possibly be agreed to and implemented. I find that if you don't like something, it's because you don't understand it. And if you understand something, you can expand your mind and grasp other things. And I think it would open up a whole new world for me, and I can help my children even more, and my neighbors' children. I really believe that it's like a domino effect. So if you get involved in your community, I really believe that it would be very effective. So again, I mentioned before my passion for language and music, but also critically the basic education is just so critical. And as I mentioned previously, a very selfish goal is I'd love to see Fanwood Scotch Plains be up there with Westfield and Milburn and the top-ranked schools in the state, because I think that's an achievable goal, and I'd like to be part of the solution to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll wrap this up with Evan Murray, Scotch Plains.
So I don't have a hidden agenda. What you see is what you get. I'm not doing this for a specific intention of trying to fix something, because as a board, we all know it's a board decision. It's not one man changing the world. There is one area I think there'll be a good area for focus, and you actually stole one of the questions I think we had coming up later on, but I'll give you a little sneak peek into what I was thinking with that one. So from my perspective, when I took a look at the New Jersey school performance reports from 2012, and one of the things that stood out to me was mathematics were either proficient or advanced proficient. I mean, the scores were tremendous. But when you look at language arts, it was mostly proficient with less on the advanced proficiency side. And I think that would be a good area of focus. I think if, I could say one of the things I would like to focus on would be probably looking at those scores if you're going to go based on, the scoring kind of path. That would be where I would say that, the district can spend some additional time focusing on, which clearly I'm sure they're well aware of as well. But I don't have anything specific that I'm looking to achieve other than be an active participant in driving positive change.
Thank you. Now we've hit on a few topics here. Does anyone have any clarification or any questions of one another that you'd like to jump in at this time? Kind of do a little wrap up of what we've hit so far. Are we good to move on? All right. Let's move ahead to one of the questions here from our list then. Scotch Plains Fanwood was recently given a high-performing district designation from the New Jersey Department of Education. The areas reviewed include instruction and program, fiscal management, governance, operations, and personnel. Our scores ranged from 90% to 100%. As a board member, how would you work to build upon this type of success, and what are your ideas to further strengthen our district? And we begin with Amy Winkler.
I believe you're referring to the CUSAC
Yes.
report. We have been, ever since we've been looking at the CUSAC reports, ever since we've been under these constraints, looking at how can we improve our scores on this. We're happy with the scores that we have, but you're never really satisfied until you can always do more. I think what we are focusing in on now is that there is an achievement gap. It's been shrinking, but it's there, and we need to really focus our attention on addressing that. I don't have other
Okay,
thoughts at this time.
okay. And let's move on to Robert Stovall.
Yes, I'm very pleased to see the success that the Fanwood School District has achieved. And I believe, to build upon Charlotte's point earlier, that utilizing iPads, utilizing electronic media, I think is really going to help the students, because I see the textbooks that my children bring home from school. I can't carry them, and I don't know how they carry them. And I'm just realizing that the more technologically advanced our society becomes, I work for a digital agency, and I mean, every day there's updates and developments. And I think the reason why we're falling behind, the reason why South Korea is number one, is because the South Korea and other countries in that area are just so highly technologically advanced, and we have just fallen behind. And I think if we can really grab onto that and work with the technology and really build upon that and focus our attention on that, I think that would really help us to achieve more. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we move on to David Gorbanoff.
Well, what should we do? We should probably continue all the planning that this district has been doing over the years, our strategic planning, working with the administration in all areas. The board works, again, at the committee level and as a whole, but lets the administration go where they feel professionally they need to go. It's not our function as a board to sit and micromanage the administration. We have professionals, some of the best around, the best in the state are here, working for our kids, okay? So that's what we want to do. We also want to expand the areas that our kids are looking at. We want to expand their minds, their vision. One of the things, again, it's in one of the other questions, but I'll talk about it.
Jump around.
The increase in global awareness. What a tremendous change in our programs, having our kids not just focus internal, but looking around at everything that's around them. So it's that kind of planning and that kind of activity that's going to make our district better.
Thank you. And now we move to Evan Murray.
So this was the question I was referring to earlier around, what would we do to build on further on this district's success? So clearly, the plan that's in place has been recognized and has been, has a tremendous amount of success. So I'm not gonna harp on what I mentioned earlier regarding some of the scores in the language arts category, but I think it's important that we continue to market our high school. I think that there's been some downward trends in seeing students moving towards the Union County Magnet School a little bit, and I think that with that, rankings and finances would continue to decrease, where I think we really need to understand why. What is it that they're offering that we're not? What is it that we can do differently to keep the enrollment and rankings trending up in a more positive direction for the school district? Keeping up with the competition is and exceeding the competition is a simple business model, no matter what business you're in. But I think that at the end of the day, where we can challenge the students more and give them the opportunities that other districts have, and to your comment earlier around keeping up with the Westfields and the Milburns, what is it they're doing differently that we're not doing? What is it that's that their curriculum offers that we don't? And it's one of the questions that I often ask my management team at work is, what keeps you up at night, right? So what is it that's keeping this board up at night as to what's not working, and what can we do differently to make it better? What is it that the community feels should be done maybe differently, or where we're focusing our attention, where we should be doing something maybe a little different? So, but I do think that the board has done a tremendous job, and that's clearly evidenced by the recognition at the state level for all the successes.
And now we move to Charlotte Shermer.
So at 90 to 100% score, I say congratulations. I think that's great. But I'm sure that, we can still reach further. We need our teachers, of course, to get involved with that. They know where the kids are lacking, and I wouldn't know where they are lacking at this point of the game. But when we get together with these teachers, to find out which children, why is there 90%? What's happening to that 10%? Are they staying after school? Are they getting extra help? We need those kids to be up to par with the rest of the kids. We don't want to leave anybody behind.
Just to be clear, these weren't scores on children, these were scores on things the district does. So that, for example, might have been facilities that we got a 90% score on. It's not reflective of our
all right. I thought
children.
it was their testing scores. Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Sorry.
Well, still pretty good. I mean, you mean as far as the school, the way it looks and the grounds and things, do you mean that?
I don't
particular?
remember the breakdown of, it's a letter that's on the district website.
Right.
That talks about the recognition.
What's this, as far as management, operations, and personnel? I honestly, this is something I have to think about further. I don't have an answer right now at this time. I'd have to look into this more and understand that I misread it when I looked at it the first time.
Sure. Let's wrap this up with Nancy Bauer.
I think the most important thing when you look at any of the areas that the school board works with in order to have continued success, to move ahead, to strengthen programs, is to have the best staff possible. That's the priority, whether you're talking about teachers, administrators, facilities. It always comes down to the staff that you have, and I think being able to attract and to maintain the best staff possible at every level, and to have a working climate that supports the staff is the most important thing to success.
Thank you. This is a good time to turn back to the audience. Do we have any questions from the floor before we keep moving along here? Going up. Come right back up.
For the incumbents, I heard, it's probably just a rumor, but I've heard that there's the ever-present problem of having students that don't actually live in the district, or whose parents or guardians don't live in the district. See, I've heard the rumor that it might be even increasing, becoming more of a problem. And I wonder if the incumbents can just tell me what you think. Is it a problem? And if it is a problem, is there? How do you think it's worth trying to resolve, or is it being resolved, or what are your thoughts on that?
Any of you want to field that? Which of you wants to field that? Mrs. Winkler?
Yeah, this is a persistent rumor that seems to circle its way around the district again and again and again, and we are looking into it. When there is concern about a student's actual residence, if it is brought to the attention of the administration, they do follow up on it. It can be difficult to keep track of, as verifying things often entails someone actually physically going to the residence and knocking on the door and seeing if that child is actually there at the time. But I'm sure you can think of at least a dozen reasons why a child might not be home at any given time when someone might show up at the house. Extracurricular activities, or over at a friend's house, or anything else. So it can be very hit and miss trying to verify that sort of information. I think in some circumstances we have found students that were not actually residing in the district, and they have been removed from the schools. And we continue to follow up on that as it is reported to us that there are concerns.
Does anyone else have anything to add
I
on
say
that?
it's an ongoing process. It does continue, and it is reported to the board.
Just to clarify a little bit, I think it's always an issue.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if you think it's an increasing problem in the last year or two or 3, and if so, do you think that there's a solution, or maybe it's being addressed as well as it can be now?
I haven't noticed that it's increasing, at least over the 6 years that I've been on the board. I have been impressed with the fact that there's very thorough and consistent follow-up, and multiple ways of checking and double checking. And I think these things come up because sometimes they're complicated situations, and families may separate, and people may be living part of a family in one community and part in another, and so sometimes it takes time to sort out what's actually going on. But certainly we have an obligation to the taxpayers, which we certainly feel because we're taxpayers too, to make sure that the students who are attending here in Scotch Plains deserve to go to school in Scotch Plains or in Fanwood.
Thank you.
Question, unless somebody else is gonna-
Go right ahead, you have possession of the mic
I
right
think
now.
this is a yes/no question, but if you want to expand, great. I'd love to hear from everybody. I think it's a yes/no, but looking at the teachers in Scotch Plains Family District, just this district, are the teachers being paid enough?
Why don't we just go around, starting with Mr. Murray?
I don't have enough information to make an educated decision on that. I mean, it's all relative. I think that, I don't have the list in front of me of all the teacher salaries, so I don't really feel comfortable answering that either way.
No.
I agree with you. I don't have enough information to intelligently respond to your question, because I can tell you what my impression is of my children's teachers, and it's very favorable, very positive, but I could not make a correlation to their pay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have no idea what the teachers' salaries are either. I just know that when a first-year teacher comes out, I know that they start at a low rate, and, they have to grow with the school system, and they certainly do raise up to a certain point, and that they do fairly well in comparison to other positions in the outside world. Nothing against teachers, you work hard, but I'd have to see I'm not sure what they make. I just know some young teachers and what they've started out with, and I thought it wasn't so bad to start out with, and when I know what other people start out with in other positions.
Mrs. Bauer?
I'll just make several asides. One to say that my daughter, who graduated here, started off making more than teachers start off making here in Scotch Plains. So I think when I was talking about attracting and retaining teachers, do we lose teachers to other districts because of salary? Yes. And do we have many employees who have to work summer jobs? Yes. Or second jobs? Yes. Those are my examples.
And Mrs. Winkler?
I think that we are fortunate in our district that we have a number of teachers who are worth their weight in gold, and I don't think we could possibly pay them enough.
Thank you all. Any other questions from the audience? Mr. Lewis?
Understanding that I had my head handed to me the last time I asked this, I'll ask anyway. For everyone. Minority Fair Amendment equalizing school aid to school districts, for, against, why?
I'm sorry, could you say?
Yes, say it one more time.
Say it again?
Michael Doherty's proposal to rearrange state school aid to school districts. How do you feel on it? Are you for it, against it, and why?
Get to your question. To clarify that question, it's called the Fair School Funding Act. My name is Alexander Smith. I live in Scotch Plains. Scotch Plains sends $52 million, Scotchland Fanwood send $52 million or so down to to Trenton in the form of income tax. We get back about $2.5 million under Senator Doherty's Fair School Funding Act. We would get back an additional $43 million.
Does everyone understand the question well enough to dive in?
Would it help us to do that? Yeah. Okay, I think that helps me, so.
There is item number 6 of serving on a school board is bear in mind that as a state official, you have a responsibility to all the children in the state, not only to those in the local district. I'm adding that just as a point of clarification for that.
I'll clarify as well that several school districts, including that of Mountainside, passed resolutions in favor of this amendment.
Let's go in our little random order here. I think Mr. Murray is up first. Don't hate me.
So I've heard the question before. I think we spoke at Scotch Plains Day, and you approached me with a similar question. And on the sense of whether it's legally acceptable for us to participate in or not, I think is different from morally acceptable. It makes sense to me if it were able to work out that way, but I find it hard to believe that the state's going to be willing to give us more money back than we give them in return. So I don't know how the practical application would technically work. It's probably not the answer you're looking for, but if we could legally do it and it would work, I would say yes. If people are going to give us money, why would we not take it? Based on your comment, I don't know that that's practically acceptable.
Mrs. Winkler.
I think it's an interesting question. I think it's a difficult question. Yeah, we're spending a load of money on our taxes, and we're not getting a lot of it back, and that really sucks. Yeah, as a taxpayer, we're all taxpayers, and it does. I think that the funding, the School Funding Act, the school funding as it is now within the state, or as it was supposed to have been within the state, was really intended to try to offset educational funding in communities where the economy, the economic, in communities where the families living there are not at the same economic level as families in other communities. It was a way to try to even things out and to put a little more into schools in districts where there really wasn't that much going into the schools. The teachers are paid less, the facilities are in condition that they can't really afford to move on with. I would hate to take that away from communities. I think our children are all entitled to a good education in a good community where they can, where the conditions are optimal for them to learn. And I think that if we were to pass the Fair Funding Act, I think that a lot of districts, a lot of lower income communities would suffer. So that's my answer.
And now let's hear from Charlotte Shermer.
Okay. So if you don't like the bill and you want the money to stay here, you sound like a mean person because you feel all these other people are not getting their fair share. But meanwhile, it is taking away from the children in the town that we live in. So it's a tough situation because you want everybody, you'd like everybody to be equal. Are we all equal in every way? No, we're not. I mean, I'm concerned with the kids here. This is our town, and I'd like the money to stay here. I still understand why these other towns, they really don't have the funds. And again, it sounds mean. But lots of these towns, they get all this money. They get double what Scotch Plains gets, if not triple. And their kids still fail. So we're taking good money and throwing it down in the sewer because it's not helping them in any way. There's facts. It's been shown, over and over again, that, and I don't know what the answer is to this question because I feel really bad for those kids. I mean, when I did volunteer probation work, I was in Elizabeth with inner city kids trying to help them. And I don't know if money is always the fix for problems. And that's always the answer. Throw money. Taxpayers' money that everybody in here is paying for, that we work hard for. And I don't mind giving it. I just want to see the benefit of it. But when I don't see a benefit for it, then I say, well, why am I doing this? It's like, why don't I just hit my head against the wall? Maybe I'd get a better answer, a reaction from it. So it sounds mean, and I pray for these people. I want them to do well. I want them to have what every other child has. But people do move here for their school system, and they pay a lot of money for their taxes. They'd like to keep more for their children. maybe we could be like a Westfield school, or like Korea be number one if we had all that money. I don't know if money is always the answer, though. There's got to be other ways to do this, and it's for the public to decide, not me, that's for sure.
And let's go to Nancy Bauer now.
School funding is a very complicated issue, and not being from New Jersey, originally, I'm always surprised that it is a property tax issue here in the state of New Jersey. I feel a strong commitment to all students in the state, but I think there are many fairer ways to address school funding, and I think I am sure we as taxpayers are going to pay one way or the other. That's the bottom line. So if it wasn't that our property taxes were going down there, then it would be another kind of a tax, because you have to provide an adequate education to every child in the state. So one way or the other, communities that don't have a tax base have to be provided for. That's the bottom line. And I think there are many unfunded mandates that we have in this district and every district in New Jersey. The trend is certainly in terms of special ed in many areas. The governor told us last year he gave us more money, and in fact, when you looked at all the state aid, he gave us less money. So it's all about how you juggle the numbers and fix the picture here.
And now let's go to Robert Stovall.
I would support the School Fair Funding Act because I believe that you have to fight for everything that you deserve, and that if it's legal, it might sound mean, it might sound immoral, but if we have paid for it, we deserve it, and I believe that the government, to your point, has in place programs specifically designed for urban areas, and I believe that our property taxes, personally, have gone from $4,000 a year to a lot higher than that. They've quadrupled, more than quadrupled since we've lived here, and that's because of the school system. The school system is 60% of our taxes, and I know that in the urban areas they're not dealing with that, and I think we pay for what we get, and I think it's worth fighting for. And if we have a choice to get $43 million back after spending $52 million versus getting just $2 million back, I would welcome that, as long as it's legal and fair.
And David Gorbanoff, you'll get the last word on this.
I do not support it. I think it's contrary to what we as a society are here for.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? This is your last chance before we get into one last question and closing remarks. Gone. Every 5 years, we've touched on this a little bit, but this is a different way of asking it, and it's sort of funny that it kind of might have a little bit to do with funding. Every 5 years, the board, district faculty and staff, as well as representatives from the community, work together to devise a strategic plan. The most recent plan included everything from an initiative to increase global awareness to facility upgrades. So in other words, it represented both overarching goals and practical applications. Work on the next such plan will begin this coming spring of 2014. This is your chance to dream big. Where do you see our district going within the next 5 years, and how would you work to get us there? And we start with Charlotte Shermer.
I've never seen your strategic plan at all, so it's very hard for me to say for 5 years down the line. I wish I had the strategic plan from the last 5 years, so I would have more of an idea. But I'm going to stress what I said before. In my eyes, there's nothing more important than technology and economics. I mean, we have to get our kids, right up number one with that. If our students are to prepare for the future and the future of our country, they will have to be on top of this, the economics, and with this understanding, they can be nothing but successful. you know, if I had the plan, I'd have more to say.
It's on the district website.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Guess I should have sent that
Yeah, I
along.
didn't see that on there. I did go through it. But my strategic plan would be technology and economics. I'm firm on that. I think that's so important. I mean, we have a beautiful school here. Could we make it nicer? Yeah, I've been to schools in those districts that we just spoke about that have a lot of our money. They have beautiful schools and really top-notch schools. God bless them. And I would love to have a school like that here for our children. Every one of our schools should be like that with the money that the taxpayers pay. It really should be.
And now,
The best.
thank you. Now we move to Evan Murray.
Sure. So, in order to understand kind of where we should take the district in the next 5 years, I think it's important to understand where we've been, right? So, you can review the strategic plan, right? And it includes a lot of the things that we talked about, right? Technology, global growth, world languages, all of those things are incorporated in the existing strategic plan. But to really understand it by sitting with existing board members, district supervisors, teachers, people that have been involved in the planning of it, so those parents that were participating in the group that was, you know, soliciting how to build that plan out, I think talking to them about how that structure worked and what worked well and what it is that those individuals want to see, I think that it's an excellent way to involve key stakeholders and build relationships between the community and the school district. I think that has been a clear success. It's my understanding that the high school, I guess, is in the process of going through renewal for the middle states accreditation. And I think that, you know, it would be my hope that the accreditation committee is frequently referred to the district strategic plan when determining their objectives. So, you know, further that the teachers are using the information to help determine their own SGOs for their students. Otherwise, you come into a situation where everybody's kind of doing their own things in isolation. So, have I been a part of the development of the strategic plan? No. Would I be able to be involved in the strategic plan? I believe so. I think that, you know, I would work as hard as I could with any other member within the board to continue to achieve the high levels of success that we've seen already through this past plan that's expiring, I guess, in the spring of next year.
Thank you. Now we move to David Gorbanoff.
What I'd like to see for the next 5 years, I guess continue the path we've been on, the growth that we've seen in the district, looking at new technologies, new curriculums, broadening horizons, but then still maintaining our focus on some of the more traditional things that we've always focused on. Our music program continues to excel. I'm going to steal Mrs. Bauer's comment, and if you look around the room, you're going to see artwork from our students. That continues year after year after year after year. And that's the kind of school district I would like to see, where we have one eye focused on technology, the latest and the greatest, and another eye still always focused on the anchors.
Thank you. And let's move next door to you, Robert Stovall.
Thank you. The goals that I would like to see set forth is to go from a high-performing district to a top-performing district, to see that we are at the higher level at 5 years than we are today. To your point, we have made strides, we have made successes. I'm a very proud parent to know that the marching band won the state championship last week, and it's just great to see that. And that was not the first time that the marching band won that championship. It's just great to see that our extracurricular activities are excelling. I think that technology is critical. I would love it if my kids were as excited about their schoolwork as they are about Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and I believe that with the iPads and with technology today, that is possible, because the beauty of the iPad is that it's interactive education, and I think that we can get there. I know that that's a much more global issue, but I think if we can incorporate education with the fun and interactivity, I think that that would help us to go to a top-performing school district. I don't know if I just made up that term, if it's just high-performing district, if that's it, but I always want to reach higher and reach better. I've written strategic plans in my workforce, and what you typically want to do is, 10, 15, 20% growth year over year over year, and you want to swallow your competition, But in this case, what we want to do is leapfrog over Milburn and Westfield, or at least, achieve that goal, and just be the best we possibly can in the state, and possibly even have a national ranking for our music programs, our language programs, and our education programs. I've noticed that we don't have a lot of students going to Harvard, Princeton, and Yale. I'd love to see that number double. And maybe that's very specific, but I'd like to see one of my daughters go to Princeton or Harvard or Yale. And as part of the Scotch Plains Fanwood School District, I think that's possible.
Mrs. Bauer?
Okay, so you ask us about the strategic plan. I'm actually very proud of the strategic plan that we have had, and I think when you were talking about dreaming big, first I was just thinking a lot of the great ideas in the current strategic plan came about because of the very wide input and the synergy of ideas that came from the community, the teachers, the parents, the students, and everyone who was involved. I don't think any one person comes up with, the big, great ideas, that it's a combination. And I'm hoping that same kind of synergy will develop as we move forward with the next strategic plan. And I think technology is a good example. We actually are very far ahead here in Scotch Plains with technology, and we're in a very good place with the new tests that are coming up that are all going to be computer based in terms of everything from our broadband to having keyboarding for the little ones because they're going to have to be able to take those tests online and so forth. I think, and in terms of innovative practices, just because we just reported on this at the last two board meetings, we happen to have students here, and one of the new courses, electives we have, is on developing mobile apps. And some of the students in the audience were seniors, and they were like, "Oh no, we're graduating, we can't take that class." So, I think continuing to have those kinds of moves forward where you are appealing to the students and at the same time the needs in our changing world. I do think when I was talking about personnel being the most important thing as a strength moving forward, that's certainly the case with our students. And one of the things I was thinking about was some kind of integrated leadership program that stretched across all of our students and maybe built on service learning, because my concern is we have so many good initiatives going on with the service learning and the global awareness. So how do you not sort of just drop those and jump onto something new? How do you build on what you have and continue to support that? Because a lot of our budgetary decisions have been made based on the strategic plan.
Thank you, and Mrs. Winkler will get the final word on this topic.
Okay. I have lots of thoughts of things I'd like to see in the strategic plan. As Nancy said, it'll have to come together as a group consensus, but dreaming big, if we had unlimited funding coming from some magical source, full day kindergarten, bringing back middle school sports, expanding our preschool program, expanding our special needs programs so that we could bring more students back into the district, putting solar panels on every single building, expanding our gifted program, doing all sorts of things like that. Wow, I lost my train of thought again. Terrible. I think that it's been very impressive actually over the last few years watching how our finance committee has worked with the administration. We're under constraints. You all know about the 2% cap on the taxes in our budget, and how funding from the state has been cut on and off in the last few years. But it's been really impressive to see how with less and less funding, all of our costs are going up. Healthcare has gone up, our utilities costs have gone up. Everything is going up more than this 2%, and somehow we seem to be expanding things, expanding opportunities for our students anyway. We've in accordance with the last strategic plan, we added a non-Western language to what the schools were teaching. We've been moving forward with this global perspectives. We've added technology in the classrooms, expanded our bandwidth, and we do have a lot more computers. A lot of our textbooks are online now, so students have the opportunity to access them online and not just through the heavy textbooks. And I think it's been really impressive what we've been able to do. You know, there's obviously always room for more. So.
Well, thank you all for those very thorough and thoughtful answers. This does conclude the question and answer portion and brings us to closing remarks. Each candidate will have 2.5 minutes, and we're continuing with our random pattern here. We'll start off. The first person to get closing remarks is Robert Stovall, who is seeking a seat from Fanwood.
Thank you, Marcy. I wanted to thank everybody for your time and attention tonight, and thanking everybody on the board, the incumbents as well as the new members. I am very excited to be a member of the Fanwood Scotch Plains community, whether it's volunteering, being a chaperone, rescue squad, or just being a neighbor to somebody who just moved in. And I really want to be as involved as I can in the community. I believe that my 25 years of experience in public relations, communications, marketing could really add value to the Board of Education, if nothing else to offer fresh ideas that, not being a teacher or a school administrator, I could possibly share some ideas with the board, and nothing would make me happier to know that I contributed to my community and to help my daughter's education by providing ideas and energy and thoughts to make it better. So thank you for your time.
And now we move to the incumbent from Scotch Plains, one of the incumbents from Scotch Plains, David Gorbanoff.
Again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Thank to the PTA Council for this evening. I've enjoyed serving on the board. I think I bring a lot of experience to the board, and I look forward to continued service. Again, like someone else said this evening, I do this because I like it. I like giving back to the community. My kids are all out of school. This kind of allows me to keep myself grounded. So thank you.
Thank you. And now we turn to the incumbent from Fanwood, Amy Winkler.
I want to start by thanking you, Marcy, and the rest of the PTA Council for organizing this evening. I think it's really important for the public to hear the candidates' viewpoints on various issues, and this is a really great forum, so thank you. I want to say that I'm really impressed with the people that are sitting up here with me. I think that anyone up here would serve the community well. I think that we're a very fortunate community that we have good people who are really interested in coming and serving. I guess that's really it, so thank you.
Thank you. And now we move to the other incumbent from Scotch Plains, Nancy Norris Bauer.
Well, I wanted to thank the PTA Council too for doing the candidates night. I remember myself, I found it very helpful either to be here or to watch on TV. I also wanted to thank the audience because we were a little worried. This is the first time that the school board elections have been at the same time as the general election. So hopefully everybody makes their way to the bottom of the ballot and, votes for a school board member. So that would be good. And I am really pleased to have had the opportunity. It's been an honor to serve for the last 6 years. I do think I'm a good listener, a fair person, and have a commitment to our young people and to our community that I have demonstrated over the years. And I think I have a unique perspective and opportunity to bring back ideas from around the state and from other districts that maybe help contribute to some creative decisions. And I do just want to say, I think we have a wonderful school district. I'm just very proud of our staff, our community, and it's difficult to try and balance education and taxes. It's a big challenge, but again, I think we do a good job here in Scotch Plains. I think we are one of the best districts in the state, and it would be an honor to serve again. I hope everybody votes.
Thank you. Now we turn to one of our two challengers from Scotch Plains, Evan Murray.
I too would like to thank the PTA Council for putting this together. I think this is a great opportunity that not every district, gets afforded the opportunity to kind of listen to incumbents as well as potential candidates to hear some of their views. I think contrary to some of the others on the board, I'm kind of on the different end of the spectrum. I have very young children that are involved in the district, so I'll be around for a long time. I definitely think I feel like I bring a different kind of enthusiasm to the board. I think that have a different perspective on some things. I've always given 110% to anything I've committed to. I've always tried to be as active and involved in as many things as I can. And when I give my word on that I'm going to be doing something, I'm a man of that word. I'm going to do what's best for the community and for the school district itself, and most importantly the children, because obviously once again that's why we're here. I think I have a solid foundation of skills that I can afford the benefit of the district. And I think I mentioned this at one of the meetings. I think with any luck and some quality votes, I hopefully will be sitting up here in January helping being a decision maker and part of the board. And thank you all for coming. I know it's tough getting away from families, especially during the week. So I thank everybody who has come out.
Thank you. And to close up the closing remarks, Charlotte Shermer from Scotch Plains.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the PTA Council also. This has been a learning experience for me tonight, something that I've never done before, and I got through it. I think I come here with fresh eyes. I don't have a child in the institution here, and I'm not gonna lean any way for anyone. I'm gonna look at everybody with the same eyes, because I don't have a child here thinking, oh, maybe this would be better for my child or anything like that. Not saying that anybody else would do that, but I certainly wouldn't do that. I would certainly focus on this position, because I would probably give up all the other things that I volunteer for just to focus on this, because I think that this is such an important responsibility to have, and I take it extremely seriously. My name is Charlotte Shermer again, and I'm asking you to vote for me. I'm 1A. Together, I think we can continue to build pride in the Scotch Plains Fanwood school system and give our children a strong foundation that they will need to have a bright and successful future. And in order to achieve our goals, it is important for us to all work together amongst one another. And again, I thank you so much, and good luck to all the new people, all the people that are running. Good luck to everyone. I only wish we could all work together and get in together at the same time. That would be great. So thank you so much.
Thank you all. And let's remind everyone there is a seventh candidate running, John Scanland of Scotch Plains, who was not able to be here this evening, but in the prepared statement I read earlier, just to reiterate that, he is an advocate for fiscal responsibility. I'd like to take a few moments as we wrap up here to thank the people who made this evening possible, Superintendent Dr. Margaret Hayes, as well as Sally Rowland and Pat Kane from her office, Ellen Geisel and Gina Giacona from PTA Council, Catherine DeMarco, our high school student who's videotaping this, and Ray Moskal from the high school. He's a faculty member. He's going to see to it that this gets streamed on the district website, so let your friends know who might not have been able to be here that there'll be a link on the website starting tomorrow morning to be able to see this, and we'll also get it on the local stations, and we'll spread the word about when to find that as well. A huge thank you to the members of the community who joined us. I know it is hard to get out, especially on a weeknight, so it really means a lot that you've taken the time to do that. And most importantly, thank you to the candidates for accepting the challenge to run for this important office, and for taking the time to be here, and for your thoughtful input throughout the evening. And I echo what Mrs. Winkler said, is that we're fortunate in this community to have individuals like all of you stepping up to do this. So voters, don't forget to go to the polls on November 5th. Make your voice heard. Good night and be safe. Thank you all.